From the unreal to the real. From darkness to light.
A handful of pages that hold an entire path.
I'm Theo.
And I'm Lena.
This is At the Feet of the Master.
We're glad you're here for the walk.
I was actually just looking over my notes from our first 2 episodes on discrimination, thinking about how smooth that felt. And then I looked at the title for today and realized the honeymoon period is officially over.
Seriously, when I saw the topic for this one, my immediate reaction was basically a flinch.
Well, it makes sense because it's a heavy, kind of forbidding word, desirelessness. And for anyone just joining us, this show is a slow walkthrough at the feet of the master.
Right. Our first 2 episodes focused on that first quality, discrimination, which was all about learning to see clearly, telling what lasts from what just passes away, and telling the writer from those restless animals inside us.
But today we step into the second of the 4 qualities. And I want to deal with this word desirelessness head on, because I think the name itself scares people away from something that's actually much, much gentler than it sounds.
When I read this first, I was like, eek! Desirelessness sounds like being asked to want nothing, to care about nothing, to go completely gray and flat and just float a few inches above your own life. And that doesn't sound that holy to me. It sounds a bit like depression.
And the remarkable thing is, the book opens this exact section by naming that very fear. The opening line is about people who find this quality difficult because, in his words, they feel that they are their desires. That if you took away their likings and their dislikings, there'd be no self left at all.
Which is such an honest place to start, because that's the fear, right? It's not that wanting less would be hard. It's that without my wants, my preferences, the things I'm chasing, there might just be nobody home.
And I don't think we should rush past that, because it's a real question, and not a small one. Who are you underneath what you want? The book has a clear view on it, but I'd rather sit in the question with you for a moment before we reach straight for his answer.
Because if you really watch yourself across a day, so much of what feels like you is just preference. I like this. I can't stand that. I want this to happen. I'm dreading that. Strip all of it out, and you do start to wonder what's left.
And his answer, as far as I can read it, is that he's not actually asking you to scrub all of that away. This is the first place the word completely misleads us. He's quite specific. He says that when you really see, not just say, but deeply feel, that the things most people chase just aren't worth having, the wanting for them falls away, on its own.
So it connects straight back to what we were circling in the first 2 episodes. The seeing comes first, and then the wanting loosens by itself. He isn't telling me to grit my teeth and just stop desiring things.
That's how I'm seeing it. It's less an act of force and more something that just naturally follows from clear sight, which is a very different feeling from, like, white-knuckling your way out of wanting.
Okay, that softens it a lot. Yeah, but then he does something I did not expect at all. He goes straight after the good desires, the high-minded ones.
He does, and this part I think is genuinely surprising. He says there are people who give up chasing worldly things, but only so they can win heaven, or escape the cycle of rebirth, or get free for themselves. And he says, don't fall into that. There's a line there that's just stuck with me for years. He writes, all selfish desire binds, however high its objects.
However high its objects. So even wanting enlightenment, wanting to be free, wanting to be good, if it's curled around yourself, it's still the exact same hook.
That's the claim, and I find it incredibly bracing, because it closes a door we all love to leave open. We tend to assume that spiritual wanting is the clean kind of wanting, and he's going, not necessarily. A craving doesn't suddenly become pure just because its target is lofty.
And I see this one in such ordinary modern dress, the whole world of self-improvement, wanting to be calmer, more disciplined, more whole. It can look like genuine growth, but underneath it can just be the same old appetite, the same wanting to acquire, just pointed at a more flattering target. And the giveaway, for me, is the restlessness. If I'm chasing the calmer version of myself, the exact same way I once chased a promotion, then it isn't really peace I'm after. It's just another acquisition with a nicer label on it.
And that quiet self we kept finding in episode 2 is right there again, isn't it? It just learns to dress up in spiritual clothes. It stops collecting money and starts collecting insights, or calm, or a sense of being further along than other people.
Which is deeply uncomfortable, because that's a real motive in me. So is he saying I shouldn't want to grow at all? Because that feels like it tips over into something kind of paralyzing.
I don't read it that way, though I'll admit this is me reading into him. I don't think the target is the wanting to grow. I think it's the part of the wanting that's secretly about the self, the scorekeeping, the me getting somewhere. The growth can happen. He just doesn't want it to be one more thing you're hoarding for yourself.
So it's the around yourself part that's the problem, not necessarily the growth.
That's where I land, and it leads straight into what I think is the real heart of this whole section, the desire for results.
Oh, this is the one that really got me. Walk me through it, because it's so specific.
So he says, okay, suppose you've let go of wanting things for yourself. There's still a much subtler want left. When you help someone, you naturally want to see that it worked. You want to see how much you helped. And maybe, he says, you even want them to notice and to be grateful. And then he says something that completely stopped me. He calls that a want of trust.
A want of trust. Not a failure of humility or simple selfishness, but a lack of trust.
Right. His logic is, if you do something genuinely good, it has an effect, whether or not you ever get to see it. And needing to see it is a quiet way of not trusting that. So he says, do right for the sake of the right, work for the sake of the work, and give yourself simply because you love to, not because of what comes back.
And the gratitude piece is the one that really just pokes me. Because wanting a little thank you feels so harmless, right? It feels so human. Is he really saying that's a flaw?
And I want to be careful here, because I don't think he's shaming the ordinary warmth of being thanked. The way I read it, he's pointing at what happens when the thank you becomes the secret reason you did it. When you notice yourself giving a little less freely to the people who don't notice or don't say it back. That's the tell. The help was partly a transaction.
Yeah, I see it now. I know that feeling. It's that subtle shift when you help someone and they just ignore it. The favor you hesitate to do a second time because they never said thanks. That's what he's tapping into. It's so quiet you barely notice it happening. And honestly, I think his word for it fits. It's trust. If a part of me is begging for validation, for proof they noticed, then deep down, I guess I don't really believe the act itself was enough.
And there's this old analogy people use that always helps me visualize it. Think of someone serving at match point in tennis. If in that split second they start thinking about the trophy, the prize, or what the papers will say tomorrow, their arm tenses up and they miss. The perfect serve only happens when you completely let go of the outcome. When it's just total, absolute focus on the ball right in front of you.
Which flips the whole thing, doesn't it? Because that's the obvious objection to this whole teaching. If I stop caring about results, won't I just get lazy and sloppy? Like, why would I try to cure a disease or build anything if I don't want the outcome?
And that's exactly the tension worth sitting in. The surprising answer hidden in the tennis image is that the wanting is what wrecks the performance. The desperation for the result, the fear of failing, it splits your attention in two. Half of you's on the task, and half of you's on the scoreboard.
So letting go of the result isn't the enemy of doing it well. It might be the very thing that lets you do it well. 'Cause all of you is finally in the room with the actual work, instead of half of you living in some imagined future where it's already succeeded or failed. And I notice that in tiny ways. The times I've done something best are usually the times I completely forgot to wonder how it would look.
That's the possibility. I wouldn't state it as like a law, but it does turn the teaching from something cold into something deeply practical. He isn't asking you to care less about the work. He may be asking you to care so completely about the work itself that you stop insulting it by demanding applause when it's done.
I love that framing. Care so much about the work that you don't need the applause. And then he extends this into something that sounds quite remote at first. The bit about powers.
He does, and we can keep this one light, because it's very much of its time. He warns against desiring what he calls psychic powers, special abilities. And he says, don't reach for them, they'll come if and when they're meant to, and grasping at them early just breeds trouble and conceit.
And even though most of us aren't sitting around wanting to read minds, the shape of it feels completely familiar. It's the desire for the advanced version, the shortcut, the special status, the proof that you're spiritually further along. The exact same appetite, just aimed at the deep end of the pool.
That's how it translates for me anyway. Wanting the badge of progress rather than the progress itself. And then, after all these big targets, he does something I really like. He shrinks it right down to the smallest, most daily desires. And these are the ones that actually run our days.
Ooh, this is where it got uncomfortably close to home for me. He says, never wish to shine or to appear clever, and then have no desire to speak.
And he stacks it deliberately. He says it's good to speak little, better still to say nothing, unless you're absolutely sure that what you want to say is true and kind and helpful. 3 filters. And only if it passes all 3 does it earn its way out of your mouth.
Which, if I'm being honest, would silence about 80% of what I say in a given day. So much of my talking is none of those 3. It's just the urge to have a take, to be in the conversation, to be seen being clever.
And he names it directly. There's an old line he quotes, 4 things: to know, to dare, to will, and to be silent. And he says the last one, to be silent, is the hardest of them all.
The hardest. Harder than to dare. Harder than to will. And I believe him, 'cause daring at least feels heroic. Staying quiet when you've got the perfect thing to say, the clever thing, the correcting thing, and just letting it go, completely unsaid, that's the one that actually hurts the ego.
And notice, it's still desirelessness. The desire to speak, the desire to shine, the desire to be the sharp one in the room. It's the same appetite from episode 2. That mental self that wants to feel a little above everyone else. He's just found where it lives, in an ordinary Tuesday conversation.
And then the very last form of wanting he goes after is the one I'd never have filed under desire at all. The urge to meddle. To get involved in other people's business.
This part feels almost startlingly strict. He says what another person does or says or believes is, in his words, no affair of yours. And you've got to learn to let them completely alone. They've got the full freedom to think and speak and act as they choose. The exact same freedom you want for yourself.
And I'll be the one to push on this. 'Cause in a hyper-connected world, that sounds almost irresponsible. We're all swimming in everybody else's choices and opinions all day long. And surely there's a point where staying out of it is just cowardice, dressed up as serenity.
And the book actually anticipates that, which genuinely surprised me. It's not a blanket rule. He carves out clear exceptions. If you see cruelty to a child or an animal, he says it's your duty to step in. If someone's breaking the law, you act. If you're genuinely responsible for teaching someone, you can gently tell them where they're going wrong. So this is not passivity in the face of harm.
That's an important line then. Non-interference with people's own paths. But just to be super clear on this, not non-interference with actual harm. Those are 2 entirely different things.
Exactly that. And once you separate them, the teaching gets much cleaner. The thing he's asking you to drop is the constant low-grade managing of other people, the wanting them to be different, the opinions about how they're living that just aren't ours to hold and don't help anyone.
Which is, again, a desire. The desire to control, to correct, to have everyone arranged exactly the way I'd prefer. So it really does all come back to the same root. Even my meddling is just wanting, pointed at other people's lives.
And that's what holds the whole section together. It looks like a list of totally unrelated things. Don't chase heaven. Don't need the thank you. Don't show off. Don't meddle. But underneath, it's one single move made over and over. Loosening the grip of wanting.
And when you put it that way, it stops sounding gray and flat to me. 'Cause the picture isn't a person who feels absolutely nothing. It's a person who isn't being yanked around all day by 100 little hungers. The wanting to be thanked, the wanting to win, the wanting to be seen as right. Take all of that pulling away, and what's left might actually be more present, not less. That sounds lighter to me, not cold or lifeless.
That's the reframe I'd offer anyway. Not the absence of life, just the absence of the constant pull. You still act, still help, still work, maybe even more freely than before, because you're not doing it to collect something for yourself each time.
So maybe that's the thing to try this week, and it's quite small. Do one good turn for someone, and then deliberately don't check whether it landed. Don't go looking for the thank you. Just do it and let it go. And notice how strong the pull to check actually is.
And maybe a second one, right alongside it. Sometime when you've got the perfect, clever thing ready to say, the line that'd make you look great. Just let it stay unsaid, once. And watch what that costs you inside. That little experiment tells you a lot.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up today. And as always, please don't take any of this as us handing you conclusions. We're working it out as we go, the exact same as you are. And if this kind of thing speaks to you, our show is part of a growing family of shows over at Pillar 5 Media. Different hosts, different books, all of us trying to take something deep and make it feel a bit more like a conversation with a friend. You'll find all the shows at pillar5media.com.
And that's pillar, then the number 5 as a numeral, media.com. Next time, we move into the third quality, good conduct. And the first part of it is all about governing your own inner weather, your temper, your worry, your moods. And a claim that genuinely provoked me the first time I read it, that you've got no right to inflict your low moods on the people around you.
Now that one's going to be a real conversation, because I think most of us quietly believe a bad mood is our own private business. Until then, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.